It's Wednesday, March 23rd, 2011. I'm Kevin McShann, and this is the McShann Sports Beat Report.
Sal, the vote. What's been decided?
Chris, significant and potentially very historic. The vote today here at the Roosevelt Hotel in New Orleans. The owners have voted to move the kickoff from the 30 to the 35-yard line, but keep the touchback to the 20-yard line. So it's a double whammy to the kickoff teams. Now teams with kickers with strong legs can kick it out of the back of the end zone and neutralize returners like Devin Hester, Joshua Cribbs, Percy Harvin, and Leon Washington. There really isn't any incentive not to kick it out of the back of the end zone for those kickoff teams who are facing those specialists who can bring it all the way back. And as we know, Chris, there were 23 kickoff returns for touchdowns last season, and that was the second most in NFL history. Now, this is designed, of course, to reduce the number of injuries on kickoffs. A lot of coaches, however, were very reticent, rejected the idea, and their voices were heard, but not heard enough, because at this point it's a double whammy. Also, now you have to line up at the 30, 5 yards back behind the kickoff. No more 17, 18 yards back. You can't get that running start for 10, 15 yards when you're covering a kick. The wedge remains, the two-man wedge remains, and that will help kickoff return units, but if they don't have the football, they won't be able to return it.
And again, the wedge was cut to two-man in 2009. At the start of this week, the competition committee wanted to do away with them completely. So that will stay. But Sal, you're right. What a double whammy. Some of the other items they were taking up today, when do you expect to vote on some of those?
The vote has already been taken on the referee from the booth being able to challenge from the booth any scoring play, but here was the compromise. The coaches will be able to keep 3 challenges during the game if they win their first 2. And the number of teams that won their first 2 was almost minuscule. It's very not even worth talking about. Last year, I think it was like 4 or 6 teams during the course of an entire season. Very, very low number, so that is not likely to happen very much. But that third coaches challenge is still in play if you do, in fact, win your first 2. But now every scoring play in the National Football League will be reviewed by the replay official in the booth.
How about rules on illegal hits to defensive players, defenseless players? They were expanding that to 8 different categories now. What did they decide on that?
There was a major pushback, especially from the Pittsburgh Steelers, on that particular issue, and that issue, Chris, was tabled until next season.
One of the core fundamental principles of change is that it'll take existing rules and make them better over the course of the long term. But on Tuesday, the NFL's competition committee caused an uproar when they voted 26-6 to move NFL kickoffs from the 30 the 35-yard line. Also, the proposal, which will allow NFL replay officials and referees to review every scoring play throughout the course of a game, passed by a total of 30-2. You need a total of 24 votes by the owners to pass any rules changes in the NFL. Rich McKay, the president of the Atlanta Falcons and the chairman of the NFL's competition committee, explained the reasoning for the rule changes on Tuesday.
Let's get right to it. So kickoffs are going to move back now to the 35-yard line. Up from the 30, but there was discussion that a touchback would be moved up to the 25. That's going to stay at the 20. Take me inside the room and how you guys came to that decision. Well, it was a really good process, and I give the coaches a lot of credit for the process that we went through with respect to that rule. That rule, we started with the idea that we were going to modify the way the kick play was played, the kickoff, I should say. We were basically going to shorten the field, move the kickoff to the 35, have people line up 5 yards within the kickoff line, and then move the touchback back to the 25. I think their objection was that you would end up in a position where you might get more kicks that are mortar-like and people try to trap people inside the 25, as opposed to if you move it to the 20, then it'll be the traditional same result. You either try for the touchback or you kick some type of higher kick and allow the return to happen. They didn't like that one change. We took that change out, and we took the change out that we also had put in the original rule proposal, which was a prohibition against the two-man wedge. A couple of years ago, we had prohibited the three or more man wedge, meaning 3 or 4 man wedge, because of injuries. We really didn't see the same injury statistics with respect to the two-man wedge. They asked that we take it out in the proposal, and that's what led to Proposal 2A, which was voted on and passed today. Special teams are a very exciting part of the game. We've seen kickoff returns flourish over the last couple of years, and not necessarily just for touchdowns, but also just giving teams great advantages. They're getting the ball out in the 40, 45, even in the other team's territory. Are you a little concerned that you're going to take back some of the excitement of the game? You know, Fran, I would say maybe a little, but I don't think it's really going to affect as much as people might think. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when we talked about elimination of the 3-man or 4-man wedge, and the idea by a number of special teams coaches that, hey, you're really going to cut back touchdowns, you're really going to hurt the return game. And this year we had 23 returned for touchdown, the second most in the history of the league. Special team coaches are pretty creative. I think the play will remain in the game. I know on our team in Atlanta, we have Eric Weems. Eric's a pretty good returner. I went to the Pro Bowl this year.
He did.
Obviously got us back in the Tampa game with a long kickoff return. So, we want the play in the game. We just felt like we needed to modify the play, and that's why we made the proposal.
All right, let's move on to the next change, which is huge. All scoring plays now are going to be up for review by the officials. You're going to take that burden away from the coaches. What made the competition committee propose that idea?
I think it's a modernization of the replay system. I think our system served us well. It's a pure challenge system, and it served us pretty well. We have replay assistants that are very competent people that sit up in the box and kind of run replay in the last 2 minutes of the first half and the last 2 minutes of the game. I think we felt like we needed it to help the coaches and take a little burden off them with respect to all scoring plays. Principally, Fran, what happens is when you go on the road and you're faced with a big decision such as a scoring play, traditionally you're not going to get a real good look at it on the scoreboard because they're not going to show it to you, and your coaches are forced to look at it in the booth and make a quick decision. We felt like this was a play that we could put in the replay assistant's hands. He could quickly confirm touchdown, or if he doesn't confirm touchdown, he sends it to the referee. We have a review. We just felt like the system was a little fairer to the coaches, and we thought it was the right thing to do to kind of modernize what we began with.
All right, the operative word there you just used, quickly. How quick is it going to be? I mean, is it going to slow down the pace of the game?
We don't think so at all, Fran. Now, maybe it could. Do we think it will? No. Here's why. Because today, what we tell the umpires is before you place the ball, drag out the placement of the ball for an extra point. Give the coach a chance to challenge. Give the coach some time. Well, in this case, he won't do that at all, because what we'll do with the replay assistant upstairs is as soon as he confirms the play, he will give a signal down to the field, and they will place the ball and be ready to kick. If he can't confirm it, then he'll obviously have the official or the referee review it. Remember, last year, 20% of all challenges by coaches were on scoring plays. So there's going to be some reviews by referees, but that's the same as it was with the coaches. So we don't think this is one that adds time to the game. We just think it makes it a little more equitable and takes a little burden off the coaches in a situation where I'm not sure it was really fair. The burden was put on them.
However, not everyone is in favor of the new kickoff rules. Several coaches, including New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton, says that altering kickoff rules too much will affect the quality of special teams play. Anytime there's a touchback and it's not coming out to the 20, I think that was probably the most drastic of the 4 or 5 items that constituted one rule, Peyton said. One of the major reasons why coaches oppose the new kickoff rules is because of their fear of the increase in touchbacks. Last year, touchbacks increased a total of 16% around the NFL. The NFL's competition committee cited player safety as the primary reason why they have made these changes. Joshua Cribbs, the special teams demon for the Cleveland Browns, who has 8 returns for touchdowns, the most in the NFL, appeared on NFL Network on Tuesday to discuss his displeasure over the new kickoff rules. He says that the new rules will take away from the competitive nature of special teams and make elite kickoff returners such as himself become obsolete.
I highly disagree with the rule changes. I was listening to some of the co-owners speak on, player safety, trumps, athletic entertainment ability in this. But, we have yet to see any proof or, anything that says, most of the injuries happen on kickoff and kickoff return. And this is why, because we need to move it up 5 yards and that would eliminate it. I just don't see the relevance in the 5-yard rule. All I do see is, the lack of opportunity that will occur because of that rule. And, like they say in basketball, free throws wins games. In football, it's special teams and it's kickoff and kickoff return. And I just, I don't see the relevance in the 5 yards, moving 5 yards to the 35. I just don't see the relevance at all.
And obviously with the labor discord that's happening right now, I guess the question becomes, have you thought about kind of how you can contribute more? Because we all know what this is going to lead to is more kickoff, more touchbacks, which means less attempts for you. So from your perspective, what are you thinking as far as how you can help your team?
Well, I've been always able to adapt. Even when they changed from the wedge rule a couple years back, I had started out with a 3-man wedge, and they recently changed that. And we've adapted, and I was able to still make the Pro Bowl, and, out of all the rule changes, we was able to adapt. But this rule, I'm thinking like, hey, they already kick it away from guys like myself and Devin Hester and all the other extraordinary returners. But this rule kind of trumps them all due to the lack of, they're going to start to, scout kickers just to kick it touchbacks. They won't have a need. Returners like myself will become obsolete. They'll start recruiting these big leg kickers. They'll just put in the end zone, hey, lead the team, let the team come from the 20, go 80 yards down and score on our defense. And it won't have no need for a Josh Cribbs or Devin Hester, to play in the football league, to play on kickoff and kickoff return team. And I've been on both spectrums. So I'm talking from a guy playing on kickoff coverage units and return units. I don't see the safety, the need for a safety change in this area, especially a 5-yard change, a difference. Do you honestly think that 5 yards difference will change in safety, will make a big impact on how safe the game is played? This is a contact sport, and we know exactly what we sign up for. When we sign those NFL contracts on the dotted line, we say, hey, we're taking in the risk, we're assuming the risk, and I just don't agree with, this significant rule change at all.
While I strongly believe that maintaining player safety should be at the top of the list for the NFL's competition committee when instituting these new rules changes, I also strongly believe in maintaining the integrity and competitive balance of professional football. With that in mind, by instituting these new rules, the competition committee has essentially eliminated one of the most important, critical, and often overlooked components of the game in special teams. And now, for players such as the versatile Brad Smith of the New York Jets, the electric Devin Hester of the Chicago Bears, and the lethal Leon Washington of the Seattle Seahawks, their role on a football field has now been drastically reduced. causing special teams coaches all around the league to become more creative than ever before. The NFL may be ruling with a heavy hand on this issue, and football as we've come to know it in the past can now be put to bed. Kevin McShann, Sports Beat, report.